Honestly, the fact that we had two instances, one with the kid and one with the professor, of getting almost called out for their socially awkward behavior was pretty damn fantastic. The edgelord comment left me rolling like, hey edgelord, you probably have never been in love, and I just love seeing that just like, holy shit, how do you recover from that burn, because it is so damn true. To them, the way the professor is going about it, this is the episode that really, I think, throws a wrench into what he's doing, because you can tell just how socially awkward he is. He has no connections to people, and we've already known that. But the idea that he's almost mocking Mirai for not being able to kill him to save millions because he's in love. And I think the only people who don't understand why Mirai dropped his guard and basically announced that a woman was more important than millions, it was basically Saki, then the millions, and then his life. Like, that was the chain. And the fact that Mirai doesn't, like, get embarrassed or get flustered, he's like, the only reason you're saying that is because you are socially awkward, basically. The fact that he almost has, like, incel remarks here, and the fact that he's almost trying to use it as if, oh yeah, what Mirai's doing, what Mirai's saying here is so ridiculous, is that, oh, Mirai is just weak, right? The idea that love and soulmates and all this stuff, it makes him ridiculous, but, like, the only person who would ever say that is those who either have no human connections or mix that in together with the argument that they don't need human connections. And it was great to see Mirai just stand up for that, because sure, this is being broadcasted to the world. There's a mixed response on Mirai becoming God to begin with, and a lot of them are now pushing back saying, oh, if he thinks a girl's more important than us, then I'm glad he's not going to become God. We also have to understand, like, Mirai is following happiness. He's now to the point of understanding that taking a life to save millions of lives is something that's worth doing. Back in the Metropolitan arc, he wasn't up to that point. He didn't want to become God, and also he just didn't want to take a life. Over the course of this journey, however, he's now realized that becoming God is something that can actually give more people happiness, and is also the best way to make sure that things end in the most peaceful way possible. Had the arcs been reversed, honestly, he probably wouldn't want to kill the professor right here, and Metropolitan would be the one he wants to kill. But Mirai's had a very realistic character arc of going from someone who doesn't want to hurt others, was willing to take his own life to not inconvenience any more people, to the point of now wanting to become something more great that he can give people the hope, and the people who don't want to believe in God can just go about their day. And when you really look at what the professor is saying is how there's two ways this is going to go down. Either A, Mirai becomes God and he'll end up destroying humanity someday, or a few hundred years from now, humanity will destroy themselves. The technology's already there. It seems like in the not too distant future, basically immortality will be granted because people will just become robots. They will essentially have their consciousness put into machines, and then eventually there will come a point where the destruction is. And that's another thing that really throws a wrench into, even if you have, like, the belief, like, I've been pretty much evenly split on, like, the idea that what he's saying kind of makes sense, but also what Mirai's saying is making sense. But this was the episode that definitely pushed me more on Mirai's side, just because he's saying, well, if everything's going to end anyway, why not give the chance to the most probably normal, mundane person who doesn't seem like he'll become an egotistical maniac? Sure, we don't know what happens when someone becomes God. Why can't God talk? Why doesn't God solve more of these issues? But the whole idea of why not at the very least try seems a lot more better than just saying we're all going to die in 300 years anyway. Obviously, there's still some good arguments to be made about what he's saying, like there's that caution. We don't know exactly what happens. Mirai could become the most twisted person ever if he was to become the creature, right? But at the same time, that's just baseless worry. That's how fear is able to control so many people in our own world. The fear of change, the fear of unknown. And if someone honestly had a shot at becoming God, at this point, I'd much rather Mirai have that shot than simply just letting things end in a couple hundred years like the professor is predicting, right? And that's what I love about this, is that, you know, when you look at Mirai and how normal he is to this entire situation, he represents the average human. The average human wants connections. They want love, whether that's a male or female or a cat, a dog, whatever it is. Connections are something humans crave, and the people who push back against that, in my opinion, are the weirdest ones of them all. Almost like, you know, they feel this envy, like either A, they don't know how to get those connections themselves, so then they try to shun other people for having them, or two, they actually don't need those connections, but they still have some urge to attack others for needing them. And like, it's just such a weird concept, and you can completely understand someone who's like so caught up into his work and stuff and wants that, that's perfectly fine. But then the idea that he's now almost shunning someone for having that normal connection, I can tell you right now, if you were to take a majority of the population who has someone that they're in love with or they love unconditionally, and you said, you don't kill this person, 1,000 people are going to die, 1,000,000 people are going to die, the world will end up dying. If you don't, they get to live with you. Most people are going to pick their loved one more often than not. There is going to be a good majority who will pull that trigger, but if you were a betting man, more people would save their loved one because ultimately humans are selfish. We value those that matter most to us. That's why, when it comes to we want to help other countries in need, but will it raise my taxes? No. Okay, at that point, let's just hope someone else with more money will do it. That's how humans are. And I think in a lot of times, that selfishness is something that disappoints me in humanity. But if it came to someone that you cared about that much, it's no surprise that he wants to basically protect his loved one. You might be able to make the argument, if he becomes God, he can bring her back to life, but we don't really know what God can do. God is a very silent creature. That's why, honestly, a lot of what the professor says in doubting him is something to be warranted as a valid opinion. But I do think, even though as dirty as this cliffhanger was, I think we know what's going to happen, because it was established within last week or the week before that Mirai's angel, Nauta, can intervene with Mirai, meaning that even though he's not going to dodge, she's going to push him away. And in return, Saki will probably end up getting killed, and at that point, Mirai will have no reason not to kill the professor, and I think that's the direction they're going to go. Dirty-ass cliffhanger, but I think given the stuff we've been seeing within the last couple of episodes, and the hints about what the secret power is, I think that's the direction we're gonna go, right? But I guess time will tell. Overall though, incredible stuff. This shit is awesome. Just imagining something like this happening in our own world, this is a realistic situation and how it's going down. And I love how we still are getting the perspective of the general civilians as well. It adds an extra layer to an already pretty impressive show, in my opinion. It definitely feels like, though, with how they're pacing it, next week's episode is going to determine who becomes God. That feels like the direction, with episode 24 being a full-on epilogue. And if that's the case, I think that's the perfect pacing, because there's still stuff to resolve with this current conflict. But if we had nearly an entire episode dedicated to the aftermath, that's the type of stuff a lot of stories don't give. At the very least, in anime, I find. Sometimes manga might be able to go a bit more into it, comics as well, but I like the idea of resolving it by the end of next week's episode 24, what happens in the end. Who becomes God, who doesn't become God, the idea of how the world responds and retaliates, does it start up new religions, does it destroy the current religions? That's the type of stuff that will be very, very interesting in terms of an epilogue, and if any stories had more of a reason to have a lengthy one, Platinum End's definitely up there in my opinion, but thoughts if you have any, let me know down below for sure, because this shit is absolutely crazy. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.